everyone. Welcome to the Imaging Wire show. My name is Jake Fishman. I'm the host of the show and the editor of the Imaging Wire newsletter. And we have a great episode for all of you today. We have Dr. Lauren Golding from Triad Radiology Associates on the show. Dr. Golding's done some really neat stuff and is doing some neat stuff at Triad and has some cool perspectives on kind of where radiology is going and where the people of radiology should be going to adopt to that. And that's some of the things we're going to talk about today. Welcome to the show, Dr. Golding.
Thanks, Jake. It's an honor to be here. I'm Lauren Golding. I'm a radiologist at Triad Radiology Associates. I'm the current CEO of the practice. I am specialized in pediatric radiology and women's imaging. I also do some general work as part of my position at Triad. Our practice has been around for more than 50 years. We've been a long-standing presence in the Piedmont Triad area of Winston, North Carolina. We're based in Winston-Salem. We staff 8 hospitals in the area, and we have a host of outpatient centers that we also staff. We're a subspecialized group. We provide diagnostic and interventional radiology services, we've always had a very collegial working group working relationship with our partners in the area, and we've just been honored to serve the community with imaging services.
That's so great. And I understand that you're coming up on your first year as CEO at Triad.
That's exactly right. I took over this position in June of 2021. So I'm still relatively new on the scene. So all the great things I'm talking about TRA were really foundation laid by other people. And I just get to sit in this chair and take credit for them. So.
Well, congratulations on your first year. And I can't wait to see all the stuff that you continue to do to build that next foundation. And maybe some of the things we can talk about now is just kind of your vision for the future and what you and your team are doing to prepare Triad for that vision.
Yeah, so I think the foundation of our group for a long time has really been built on kind of a concept of relationships and how those relationships help us be successful and navigate the world that we're in. And we've done that for as long as the practice has been around, and it's really served us well as we've grown substantially over the last couple of decades. One of those partnerships starts with our internal team members. And just like in any business, I think it's just vital that your team members feel like they're engaged in what you're doing. They've got kind of an ownership in the practice, and it makes a world of difference when you need them to do extra things or stay late or help out their teammates. And we have an amazing group of people who really without fail will be there for each other. Will show up. Will work hard for the team, and that requires a couple of things. One is that they have to feel involved. They have to feel appreciated. They have to feel like they have some pride in this business that we've created. The other is that they have to trust each other. And that's not something that happens overnight. That's something that over years we've developed those relationships, both with our administrative staff and among our radiologists, where you can count on somebody. And if an example would be when COVID hit and we had various people needing to switch schedules and read from home some days or be the sick family members, there wasn't even a question that people would be there to help each other out because they know that it would happen the same for them. So those relationships have been really key for the growth that we've had. You can't do anything innovative or new or stepping out of your comfort zone if you don't have people that are engaged and ready to do that with you. The other big partnership focus that we've had is with our health system and with our referring partners. It's been really important for us that we are available and accessible all the time. We have a hotline that referring providers can get in touch with us 24/7. So we can communicate with them. They can get in touch with the radiologist in the specialty they have a question about throughout the day. So I think, decades ago, radiologists like to sit in their dark rooms and do their own thing and not be bothered. And please don't knock on my door. Please don't let my phone ring. And that's shifted. And I think that that's part of the reason why we've been able to grow the partnerships that we've had. Those relationships are key. Another relationship pillar that we've had is with our patients. And, like I said, radiologists in general, historically, have kind of not had a lot of patient contact, and I think have preferred it that way sometimes. But as healthcare is shifting, it's more important than ever that the radiologists are seen as part of the healthcare team. And the patients know that we are an integral part of their diagnosis, of their follow-up. And as much as we can, we try to make ourselves available for consultations with patients to go over their imaging results. Our website says it clearly that we think the patient should hear from us what their findings are, and we're the imaging experts, and we certainly want to work together with their referring providers to give them those findings when it's necessary.
Quick question about that. Are you seeing the kind of the expectations of the patients change as they, kind of digital health becomes, or patient engagement becomes such a huge part of healthcare in other areas?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And one of the things that's recently happened in the health policy world is that patients are now given immediate access to their reports, including the radiology reports. And so, there was legislation passed that says that as soon as our radiologist report is signed, it has to be available to the patients.
Right.
We had some discussion on whether is that really great for patients, because should you be reading a radiology report that's written by a radiologist in medical jargon when you don't really have the context to interpret that in? But what we found, and what I really believe, is that we're not giving patients enough credit. I mean, they may not understand all the words in there, but they have every right to know what's going on with their healthcare. And as long as we do our part of the job in providing them the resources to talk to us, to talk to their referring provider, and help work through those issues, then I think we're going to come to a place that the patients are more informed, they're more engaged in their healthcare, and where radiologists can be a better part of the team.
And so I stopped you halfway through your vision. So continue.
Yeah. So we were talking about kind of partnerships and relationships, and we talked about internally with our own team, relationships with patients, relationships with our referring providers. And then the other thing that Triad, I think, has been really kind of ahead of the game on was long before I was here, before AI was a thing, before PACS was a thing, before any of these integration and interoperability words were cool. Triad invested in a really solid IT team. And for a group our size, we have about 50 radiologists. We have a very sophisticated IT team that honestly, they could do anything, anywhere. So we're really lucky to have them. The world is more and more about data, and the medical world and the radiology world is, if you have data on your side, you're good. And so I can go to that team and say, I need to know how many CDs come out of the ED on Tuesday from 2 to 4. And in 2 seconds, I've got a report given for me. I can match that with what my radiologist anticipated our view is on Tuesday from 2 to 4 and see what the mismatches are. I can help in hiring decisions. It can help in our manpower allocations. But just that ability and the savviness to come up with that type of data analytics has been really important for us from the business side of things. It's also been important for us in just the stability of getting our job done. And you can ask any radiologist what's the biggest pain point, and most of them would say when their PACS crashes or when their IT system is plugged up or frozen. Having people that can troubleshoot that, fix it 24 hours a day, and are willing to do that as part of the team is really important. And we've done a remarkable job of positioning ourselves for growth in the future by building up that IT infrastructure.
I've never heard somebody say outside of radiology talk about like integrations and interoperability being like cool terms, but
it's a very good point.
but when they work, it's pretty cool, right? So on the AI side, are there things that are kind of most exciting to you, or you feel like are working now?
So AI is it's such a broad topic. I think there was a ton of hype about AI a couple of years ago. Everyone thought it was going to revolutionize medicine and radiology. People predicted it would displace radiologists. None of that's really panned out for a variety of reasons, but I do think there's a lot of promise in AI tools that, they can help with some of the small detection tasks, smaller tasks that are redundant or inefficient for radiologists to do. But problem with assuming that AI is going to take over and completely change what we do is that you're still going to need somebody to make those judgment calls. And that's where the radiologist, where our value really comes in. A computer can say that there's a white dot on a brain CT, or it can find a lung nodule. We may not in the future be doing as much of the detection of those findings on scans, but somebody's got to synthesize that data. And so radiologists are probably going to evolve into more data synthesizers than image interpreters, really, or image detectors. So we've seen some AI products that can help both efficiency, workflow wise, and triage and prioritize lists. Largely the ones that duplicate radiology work haven't taken off the way we thought they would. There's AI products that will tell you if there's a pulmonary embolism or tell you if there's intracranial hemorrhage. Those companies have had some success. It's a little bit hard for them to get reimbursed because that service is already reimbursed in the current fee schedule, and they can help for efficiencies. But as far as completely game changer for radiology, we haven't seen anything like that yet. What I think will eventually be the future of AI is if we have millions of data points that are given to us from all these different, factoring in genomics and imaging findings and everything else. And then a human radiologist would have to synthesize all that and say, okay, this is my interpretation of this. This is what I think is going to happen. And that means our job's going to look a little bit different. We have to be prepared for that.
One of the things I think that's really cool is that you chose to make this kind of a strategic thing and to keep it in-house. And, in a lot of industries, maybe even a lot of practices, more IT is moving to outsource, part of the business. Are there certain parts of the business outside of IT that you view as kind of important to outsource that allow you to focus on the core
That's a good
parts?
question. I think that decision is different for every practice based on their makeup, one, and their needs too. For us, having IT internally made sense because we had the team to do it. We had the skill set to do it. We also really wanted to be in control in what data we had so that we could personally manipulate that. There's some very good IT external services that would do many of the same things that we do, but I might not be able to just holler across the hall and have somebody do them for me the way that I wanted to. So that was important to us. One of life's greatest skills is knowing what you don't know or what you can't do best by yourself. So there are things that we rely on external sources for. We do have a revenue cycle and coding management expert internally, but for our billing purposes, we use a company, Healthcare Administrative Partners. They've been amazing to work with. They handle all of our billing. They also great resources for the quality payment program, helping us with our MIPS measures and data collection. They've got a lot of great ideas, and those are things that really serve as adjuncts to what we have on site here. We partner with a couple of other vendors for things like our compliance program. We have an HR director, but we're not quite big enough of a company to have a full compliance HR department suite of things. So we use some outside vendors for that sort of thing. But again, I think it's similar size groups to us may pick and choose various different things to outsource, but for us, that's what we found has worked well.
On the billing side, if you were to do that in-house, what type of kind of headcount or operation would that require?
That's tough to say. If we had people fully dedicated to just doing the billing resources, we probably need another 3 or 4 FTE employees to handle that. Maybe more, depending on what their job description was outside of that. It's hard to know exactly because HAP does a lot of things for us that aren't purely just sending the billing and coding out. But yeah, it just for us, it didn't make sense to put that staff in-house. And a lot of it's an economy of resources and where can we best use our resources. And for us, doing the billing thing externally where we still have some control but have good communication over it was just the right decision at the right time.
Right, that makes sense. Can't wait. One of these days, InCellix is going to get big enough that I'll outsource billing. But for now, I keep a Google Doc. So anyway, we're starting to do some really interesting conversations about the future, and I'm curious about what you're seeing. Obviously, healthcare is always changing. Radiology is always changing, and you have this front row seat. And I'm curious about kind of what are some of the big changes that you're expecting, and maybe once we talk about that, maybe what are some of the things that you think can be done to make sure you can adapt to those changes?
Well, if future of radiology is a big, broad term. We talked a little bit about AI, the impact of AI on radiology, which I think if you Googled future of radiology, that's what would come up 9 times out of 10. Although, as I said, I'm not entirely sure that's right around the corner for us. But I do think the concept of radiologists thinking outside the box in terms of what we do is important to the AI topic. It's important to how we're going to see ourselves in the future in general. And sitting in a computer reading x-rays all day is probably not going to be what the radiology job of the future looks like. It may be more of that data synthesizer type role that I talked about. It likely is going to look more team-based. I think that radiologists are going to have to make themselves known as part of the healthcare team a little bit more than maybe we have been historically. And one of the reasons I think for that is that as healthcare changes how it's paid, instead of fee for service, we get paid more on a value-based system where whole institutions are paid or insurance carriers pay per population. How healthy is this population? It's not going to be possible anymore for one oncologist or one primary care doctor or one nurse or social worker to impact that population health uh, on any kind of scale by themselves. It's going to require a team. And the more that radiologists can do to be part of that team, the better position we're going to be for success in the future. And there's how do you do that? It's easier said than done for sure. One way is to be involved in when your hospital is having discussions on quality measures, or when they're having establishing risk-based contracting, and everyone's at the table trying to decide how you're going to measure people and this and that. And the radiologists need to be there. They need to be present. And they need to be saying, look, this is what we offer. We can reduce the number of unnecessary imaging studies by using evidence-based guidelines. Here's something that we can do. And if we're there voicing that, then we're less likely to be left out of those conversations and less likely stuck with whatever the decision is in the end.
It feels like it's for a traditionally volume-based part of the industry, a pretty seismic shift, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's enormous. And radiology, more probably than any other specialty except for pathology, it's just really hard to wrap our head around how we can be paid more globally and not per scan that we do, because we really do provide a service. And we certainly not to imply that that's commoditized, but you can't really measure total cost of care in the same way that you can someone taking care of a diabetic patient or someone doing a cholecystectomy. I mean, you can kind of put a dollar amount on that, and you can put some outcomes on that. I can read a mammogram, but it's really hard to say whether what downstream effects there are of whether I read that mammogram well or not. So those are really hard concepts, and Medicare has obviously struggled very much with what to do with radiology and this value-based care. But again, I think that the impact that radiology has, it has to be delineated somehow, whether it's actual outcomes measures and outcomes terms, or whether it's us being on those teams to try to help shape the way that care is delivered, both to make sure it's high quality and the best use of resources that we have, given our constraints. I think that's the best we can do. And in the end, it sounds cheesy, but as long as we're all trying to do the best thing for the patient, we're going to come out okay.
I think about, when we started off and you were talking about your kind of the pillars of your vision, and it's, being open-minded about the radiologist role, and having your IT dialed in so that you can, operate efficiently and then know how to provide the best care, and being a good partner to your, your referrers and your hospitals. And it kind of seems like you just reiterated those again. It seems like that's kind of a recipe. And I guess it makes sense, right? That you would, you don't kind of wait until value-based care, like till somebody decrees that it happens and then you have to react, right? You kind of become that. Is there like do people have a timeline for this? And like, with that timeline, how does one prepare for it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And talking specifically about the transformation of fee-for-service to value-based care, it happens sort of in waves, and it happens partially, and it happens different ways regionally across the country. So it's hard to say. It's not like they say starting January 1st, 2023, we're going to change things immediately. It's all kind of phasing in. And the truth is, even health systems that are fairly deep into the transformation, it's not all their business. It's half and half. So you really have to play that carefully. And so for radiology, trying to be at the forefront of that transformation, we can't just tell our imaging partners, okay, we're going to suddenly stop, reduce your MRIs by 50% because we think that's going to save money, because that's, they're right now in a fee-for-service world, they're not going to like that at all. So it goes, just like you said, it goes back to those partnerships and how we can make ourselves valuable. And in the end, when payment is based on how healthy people are, and how cost effective we are, then we've already laid that foundation in place, and we've made ourselves valuable in a way that we're important part of the team. We have one Triad has a client, orthopedic client, and they were struggling with a little bit with what to do with the incidental findings on their MSK studies. They have a knee MR and there's something incidentally found, or a spine MR, and there's a renal cyst found. And so we said, hey, we do that all the time. We deal with incidental findings all the time. Let us take that over for you. And we put a system in place where we read their studies, but then we call the primary care doctors to let them know that there's an incidental finding. And it was a huge burden lifting for them. It's a great service that we provide for them. And, it's just another way of making ourselves indispensable in that part of the care team. So I think anything you can do along those lines positions us so that when that transformation happens, which isn't going to be a switch on and off, it's going to be a gradual thing, that, we're considered an integral part of the team.
This has been really cool for me. So anyway, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for kind of laying out that guideline for, hopefully what a lot of practices and hospital partners can keep in mind for their own evolutions. So I think that's it for us today. I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank the audience for joining us. And I don't know if you ever see Dr. Golding at a show or something, let her know how this was helpful.
Great. Thanks, Jake.